Alright, at some certain point you won't be able to hear me anymore, and I don't know where that point is. I'm going to walk all the way over to the FedEx sign, and I'll just keep talking all the way over there. See if I can find anything interesting to say. Well, it's been a great day today. I've gotten a good amount accomplished. Could have been worse. I didn't really get to leave the house until around 11 or so. I'm kind of like figured out. That was a positive. And now we're going to see if I come right over here to this FedEx sign. Could I sit here? Right. I'm sure that the range is not that good on this dark camera, but maybe. You never know. It's possible that it would work as I walk over to this side. Maybe it connects and then reconnects. Not totally sure. I probably should have looked at the indicator. That probably would have been smart if I had looked at the indicator while I did this. Alright, let's see. Alright, this could actually be an interesting video. It was neat to see that in that last portion that it disconnected, but then as soon as it could reconnect, it did reconnect. So that gives me a little bit of hope that maybe this would actually work. And I think this would be a really interesting Bible reading episode if I got a little stool and I just kind of came over here and sat over here. I've made a joke with my brother in the past that I could do a podcast called TEDx, and it's kind of like a TED Talk. And I cross out this, oh man, I'm gonna get my sweater all wet. I cross out the F in this FedEx sign and change it into a T, and then it's kind of like a TED Talk. It's like a TED Talk podcast. That's kind of the idea. I'd be very interested to see how the sound quality is from all the way over across this road, because I think it's actually pretty cool to watch the cars go by in the video while I'm sitting on the other side reading my Bible at the FedEx sign. That could actually be a really cool video. Now there's an airplane going overhead, so I'm also interested in that, how that affects the sound quality. I can't even hear myself think right now, and now I feel like I have to yell, but I'm going to try not to yell. That would be an interesting thing to see how that would work. Alrighty, I'm going to try this one more time. I'm going to not yell the whole time. I'm just going to kind of talk at this nice, calm voice the whole time, because I think that me yelling also is something that affects the sound quality. So, I'm just going to try to talk in this nice, calm voice. I'm going to walk backwards now, wave at the camera. Hello, camera. So, if I came over here to this FedEx sign and I just started talking, and I kind of look like a crazy person to anyone that's driving past, so that's kind of funny. But what if I did a podcast right here? This is where I did the podcast. I'm sure I could get a microphone with a little bit better of range. That might be something to look into as far as the best microphone option is concerned for what to use to connect to my phone. But this is just a cool idea. Like, hey, I'm way on the other side right now. I'm way on the other side of this street. Is this still working out really well? Wow, there's a very cool Mustang coming down the road right now. It's very, very cool. You're not even going to be able to see it in the video. Probably not. It's very loud over here, but again, if I try to remember that, hey, you don't need to yell, you just need to talk normally, maybe I could do a cool video just sitting right here at the FedEx sign and do my little TEDx idea. I'll send this video to my brother. Probably try to splice these together and upload it to my Shoot from the Hip. So, shoot from the hip. Yeah, interesting idea. Interesting concept. It's very beautiful. This definitely would allow me to film interesting videos and not have to be, I don't know, it's just like an added data point that, hey, now you don't need to have the camera be close enough to you. Like, because if I'm right here, if I was standing right here, I could do my podcast standing right here, and it would just be me and Keith just standing right here, just talking to each other. Like, we don't need to do anything serious now, like we don't need to pay attention to where the camera is, because honestly, like, that's not what the podcast is about. Like, podcasts aren't really about the visuals that you get to see. It's about the audio that you're listening to while, what am I trying to say? It's about the audio that you're listening to. So if I have something where I don't need to be close to my phone anymore, I can do a lot of different things with this wireless microphone that's connected right to my head. It's just an interesting thought. Who knows if this is going to work out that well, but it's the type of thing where Keith and I were talking about, setting up a swing underneath a bridge yesterday, and you could have the phone and the microphone, like you could have the recording device be anywhere and still be able to catch the audio from the podcast that we're trying to film. So very, very cool. I think that this is a great investment. Even if it doesn't do perfect, like, it would probably be, sound quality wise, it would be better to have like a wired microphone that had the thing right there, because you always see people like with those ones that are sitting on their desks and they're kind of try to keep their head a certain distance away or whatever. But this would just be, because that's kind of what my idea of a podcast would be anyways, is I just want to be doing stuff and be able to record anything that I'm like, I just want to be able to record me talking while I'm doing other things. Like, if I could film a whole podcast while I was doing some woodworking project or doing some art project or doing something that I can just mindlessly do, but I was able to kind of film a podcast while I was doing something mindless. Or, I don't know, kayaking. That's another thing that we've talked about, that we want to be able to be kayaking. But to have the microphone attached to my hat like this, and just to be able to keep on talking, it might be a super cool, super positive thing that we could execute on some of our weird ideas better and just more accurately, and it just might be interesting. So that is the end of this little guy. Maybe I'm gonna splice all these videos together, maybe I won't, but either way, this is a good tester. There's another added functionality. I can just kind of walk down the street and film a podcast this way, and it really doesn't matter because the microphone is the same distance no matter how far or where I put the phone. I can put the phone behind my back. It really doesn't matter. But look, I mean, you get to look at this cool thing. Another thought I had that I just wanted to add to the end of that video, podcast idea. The podcast is called One-on-One, and it is just a podcast where you play one-on-one basketball with someone and have a conversation with them the whole time. So there's the last idea for a podcast that you could do with this. The one problem is when I play one-on-one, if I have a hat on like this, it just doesn't work, because you try to shoot and you hit your hat, and that doesn't really work out that way. If you tried to put your hat on backwards, now the microphone's way behind me, I'm betting that doesn't work out quite the same. So that would just be something you got to figure out. You got to figure out a better one that works clipping onto your shirt better. The problem is, like, I like having this on the hat because it is staying an equal distance from your mouth no matter where I'm moving and no matter how I'm turning and looking up like that. All these crows, I think you can kind of hear them in the video. It's kind of cool. But it's just the last little added bit of this microphone's functionality is how could I play one-on-one basketball with this type of microphone? Because that would be an interesting podcast to me. Like if I got to watch Cody Ko play one-on-one basketball with his friends, and that was the podcast. Because there's this other podcast that I remember watching an episode of that was basically, I can't remember the dude's name, but he, I'm going to split all these into parts because there's no way that my phone has enough space in order to upload all these parts. Anyways, maybe we'll figure it out. The moral of the story is there was a podcast I was watching an episode of where the dude was just cutting people's hair, and he was interviewing them while he was giving them a haircut. And I just thought that's you're adding an element. It's a podcast, but you're adding something else to it, which I thought was cool. And that might be, I mean, one-on-one is a pretty good name for, I mean, it kind of, that's one-on-one basketball, one-on-one conversation. It might just be a nice, cool little name. I'm sure you can come up with some cool logo, make the O into a basketball and the one-on-one. Anyways, just a thought. Maybe I'll figure out how to put all these videos together.